Who doesn't love the Harlem Globetrotters, right? It's a basketball team ingrained in our culture, almost 100 years old, and now they have a new residency, taking you inside the business of this iconic American entertainment brand right now at the Nasdaq. Hello everyone, this is Jabari Young, senior writer at Forbes, and I am at the Nasdaq MarketSite, and I am joined by Keith Dawkins. He is the president of the Harlem Globetrotters, as well as Herschend Entertainment Studios, Herschend Enterprises, the owner of the Harlem Globetrotters, right here at the Nasdaq. Keith, thank you so much for the time, man, and welcome back to the Nasdaq.
Yeah, I appreciate you for having us.
Hey, man, listen, it's my pleasure for you to be here. You're part of the Globetrotters, man. Like I said,
can you believe it?
Of course. Who doesn't love the Globetrotters, man? We grew up on the Curly Mill, Meadowlark women.
Meadowlark, Woodard, everybody.
Absolutely, man. Well, listen, I always start with here at the stock exchange, so give me a stock, something that maybe you might want to buy or has purchased in the past that's been good to you.
Wow, that's a great question. You know, I have this conversation a lot with my friends who are in financial services.
Yeah.
They love to talk about the FANG stocks, right? You know, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. I'm a lifelong media entertainment guy, so I always pay attention to kind of the media and entertainment sector of the world, which feels both vibrant and dynamic and also upside down if you're kind of paying attention to it, right? So that's the space that I pay attention to quite a bit.
So any of those tech companies is right there?
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. Listen, I can't afford any of them right now, so I'll take your word for it. But hey, man, as we're talking, we're in Black Business Month, right?
Yep.
And obviously ForbesBLK, our platform, we launch a series we like to call Journey to Economic Empowerment. And so I ask you, Black Business Month, who's been that Black business figure? Doesn't have to be anybody famous, but who's been that figure for you that's really made an impact?
Oh, that's a great question and an easy question because someone just asked me this the other day, my grandmother. She's not with us anymore, but you know, I tell people, do I believe in the idea in order to be it, you have to see it? Yes. Yeah. At the same time, there were generations of people who didn't have something to see, right? And so that agency, we should never lose sight of it. So when I think about a Black woman born in 1918, 1919, Rock Hill, South Carolina, the segregated Jim Crow South, and how does she even persevere through all of that? Make her way to Ridgewood, New Jersey, becomes a business owner, a philanthropist, started 2 scholarship organizations, right? A pillar of the community, owned the restaurant. I'm like, how does that happen? Yeah. So for me, you know, she and my grandfather was such a powerful influence in my life, and seeing them as small business owners, which makes up a fabric of our society here, but that perseverance, that grit, that will, that's super impactful for me.
Most definitely. You have a favorite Black business?
Wow, that's interesting. I don't know. Well, you know what? Let's say with sports, I'm fascinated by Magic Johnson and what he's done post-career.
Enterprises, right?
Magic Johnson's basketball career in and of itself would be enough. What he's done as a businessman post-career, I mean, I think there's some people who still don't even remember how great Magic Johnson was as a player, right? Because they've seen his impact in terms of the community and stuff. So he's definitely a person to admire in that way. Byron Allen's another one who I think, again, is a massive, massive media mogul, and people don't talk about him in that way when they think about the Giants. So he's done some phenomenal work. There's a lot of people out there.
Weather Channel, man. Anytime there's a travesty, we turn to Byron's Channel, right?
That's it.
I mean, listen, man, the Harlem Globetrotters, man, again, this is an iconic brand, and the piece of news that came out recently is that you guys have your first ever residency at the American Dream Mall, right off the Turnpike, where I got to get here every single time.
Our first residence and anybody's first residency from a sporting standpoint.
I mean, amazing feat, man. And take me inside of this deal. Why this? What turned you on about the residency? I mean, I know Usher has had one in Vegas and all, but why the sports team, and why did you choose American Dream?
You know, it makes sense with like-minded partners. So I've known of the ownership of American Dream back from my Nickelodeon days, because they also own Mall of America. But a recent kind of reconnection that was forged, and they were hosting a high school national championship game out there, which I happened to be watching on NBA TV. And then I get a text, and it was like, hey, the owners of American Dream would want to meet you. So the text was on a Wednesday. I meet with these folks on a Friday, and we're just like-minded partners, right? They think of themselves not as a mall. They think of themselves as a family destination that brings families from all over North America, from all over the globe together for retail, for food and beverage, for live events, for all assortment of things. And we think of ourselves as just that. We are not a tour, we're a beloved global IP. We bring families together and create memories worth repeating. We span the globe, right, with some 400 tour dates, 250 North America, another 150 outside the rest of planet Earth, I'd like to say. So the marriage made sense. And we've never done this. So, we're always bouncing from stop to stop to stop. It'd be like, wouldn't it be great if we could hunker down in one location for a period of time? And then how would our tour product look different? How do we think about licensing and merchandise different? What kind of content distribution could we do off of this? What type of sponsors could we bring in? So we're excited about the idea of experimenting with this new format for us.
Now, how does the business work? Do they buy tickets to the actual game, or when what does that look like?
Yeah, so it works much like our regular touring model, right? We have 16 games over the 10 days. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday are double headers. Monday through Thursday, single game. Then Friday, Saturday, Sunday again, double headers. So the consumer can buy tickets, AmericanDream.com/Harlem Globetrotters, right? You can buy your tickets for groups, for individual tickets. We have a pop-up shop that's popped up that's started before the event happens, so people can go into the pop-up shop and buy exclusive merchandise that they won't regularly be able to get access to in any retail location or tour location. We'll also be selling our traditional tour merchandise at the tour. We're gonna have a live game on the 18th, which is the first time the Globetrotters product will be live through our partnership with Gray Media.
That's right, down in Atlanta, they'll be showing the game.
Absolutely.
Right.
And they cover about 35% of the local TV markets across the nation. We haven't had a live game for the Harlem Globetrotters in over 40 years, right?
So that's 1970s.
It's gonna be really, really exciting. So, but again, that 10-day residency allows us to hunker down and think about how do we work with our current partners differently, bring in new sponsor partners, live, digital social media, work with our PR partners differently, right? So we can really hunker down this location for
And I'm assuming that you get to take advantage of massive foot traffic, especially in
1000%.
August. Back to school month, I mean, like, and you're on there and it said, like, oh wait, the Globetrotters are paying, and it's like that foot traffic that you're also,
So I was at American Dream a couple days ago when our pop-up shop.
Place, man.
It's
I've
a
been
fascinating
there like
place.
Twice. And the Nickelodeon,
it's sensory overload. I walk in there on a Sunday. I was told they had 100,000 people in there. It felt like 100,000 people in there. It represents. It's like the UN. It represents all of our humanity.
Yes, it does.
You hear different languages being. You hear everything going on there. And based on other events they've had there in the past, they've started doing these live events. They get a lot of walk-up traffic. So that's kind of unusual for us. I mean, we do get walk-up traffic for our normal touring spots, but usually it's like the ticket sales. We know what we're going into before the show even starts. This, I think, is going to be a hybrid. We have a lot of sales that are, so get your tickets because they're flying. But I think there's going to be a lot of just walk-up traffic of people who spend lots of time in that retail space. And they'll be like, oh, Globetrotters are playing. Let me come on over.
If my family are there shopping, I might just go check out the game and
I'll see y'all at Uniqlo, and I'm going over there wherever.
Absolutely, man, absolutely. Again, this brand, Harlem Globetrotters, they turn 100 years old in 2026, man. I mean, to be around that long, you have to salute that. I mean, that's an ultimate feat. If you had to look at it, I know you joined the brand 2 years ago, but what has been the secret to that?
So I think a few things in no particular order. One is, for everything else that we show up at, right? People always say, oh, sports brings the world together. But even the Olympics that just passed, I'm rooting for USA. Someone was rooting for whatever. There might be some story that captures my attention and mind at a fill-in-the-blank country, but right? At a Globetrotters game, everyone's rooting for the same outcome. No one's booing the referees. It's something in there for 8 to 80 years old, for every cross-section of humanity. It is a really unique product that way. I do think I know I'm sound biased here, it might be America's best export, right? There's countries that feel great about us, and there's others like, I don't know. The Globetrotters show up rocking the red, white, and blue, and everyone's like, yay! Diversity inclusion, before anyone was talking diversity inclusion, right? And I think for people that makes them feel, when you think about 1936, 46, 56, and those hard times, the Globetrotters were snaking through the country, still bringing joy and laughter and possibilities to people who didn't necessarily want them there, right? And I think that message, even though it's not overt, it's heard and it's said, and I think it was enduring where it made people feel like, this just feels like the best of all of us. And then here we are, almost 100 years later, and people are just celebrating this thing.
And it's affordable. I tell people, that matters. I know as a kid, you can't afford to go to an NBA game, but if I wanted to introduce my kid to an early sports experience, to the Globetrotters. Like it's that you get the arena impact, 100%. Everything that has to offer, plus a little bit of humor and all of that, right? And you don't get the fussing like you get at a normal game. So it's that. But if you had to look and take me on the inside of the Harlem Globetrotters, right? This is a brand. You go all the way back into 2005, right? Shamrock Capital Advisors had owned this, right? They purchased 80% for about $70 million, and then Herschend comes in 2013 and they say, hey, we'll take over from now, right? The deal reported to be 70. in between $70 and $100 million. And this is a brand, right, Herschend, that owns Dolly Parton's Dollywood, right, the Adventure Aquarium right there in Camden.
So in the city.
Absolutely, right. I mean, it's under a good, I would say, enterprise.
Yeah.
But one of the things I'm listening to you as you're explaining what it means to be a Globetrotter is that you say, listen, this is a grueling schedule. You're not just showing up for just the regular games and the back-to-backs and the double headers. You got to show up at those appearances and all of that stuff. I mean, the business of the Globetrotters, what is so fascinating about it that you found, again, being now under this family?
Yeah, so I'll say a few things about that. So the idea that the Globetrotters are a tour, a live event that travels the country, you pay a ticket, you show up, you buy some merchandise. I think that was a business that our current leadership family, Herschend understood and previous folks understood. My argument is there's some vulnerability in that model in that, and let's use COVID as an example. COVID shuts the world down.
You can't tour.
So then what happened to the tour and shut the business down? So making 95 cents of every dollar from that singular idea, again, was a vulnerable kind of proposition for the organization, one. Two, I also think it diminishes the value of what the Globetrotters really are. Like, they're not a tour. They're a beloved global intellectual property. And so you should be thinking about them from a revenue standpoint or from an audience standpoint, right? Put them at the center of the wheel and think about all the possibilities of the revenue streams. TV distribution, content, licensing and merchandise, digital, social, right? The list goes on. First of all, now then you're not vulnerable to these unforeseen forces that would, right? You're driving more value and monetization off the brand that way. And I would argue the most important thing is you're creating more touch points with the audience. I would argue there's been 20 or 30 years of us missing a generation of an audience because we weren't streaming down all the different paths where that audience would live, right? So if the only place you could touch the Harlem Globetrotters brand was by a tour, what was that doing for the person who was living on a mobile device all the time? What was that doing for the person who was a big gamer? What was that, right? And so diversifying the way in which we do business allows us not only to diversify revenue streams, I would argue it also allows us to more deeply connect and not miss a generation of audience. And then one version of us is having a conversation of this 100 years later, being like, the Globetrotters is turning 200 years old and they're still more relevant than ever. If we stay on the path that we were on, not only is that a negative revenue impact, I don't know if this brand lasts for another 50 or 75 years. So that's the big kind of shift.
And I'm sure that's how you keep the brand relevant, because it's very difficult to take a legacy brand and keep on reinventing it. Like, at some time you have to do it because it's necessary. But I mean, you're talking about the spectator sports industry is about $58 billion according to IBIS World, right? That's just spectator sports. And you have this brand that's been again founded in 1926, and now working with Hearst Production Group as well as NBC. Take me also out of that. That's another media partnership that you have, right? Are you still working on season 2 of Inside of the Harlem Globetrotters? I know it's part of the NBC knowing the more you know brand. What's going on with that?
So a few things with that, and Hearst, this is right when I started, reached out, had a meeting with them, and were able to land Harlem Globetrotters Play It Forward on the NBC platform. That was season 1, 2 hour. I mean, listen, we thought the show was great, but to be Emmy nominated, right? And season 1 was fantastic. Season 2 launched with Hearst, and we also played on Telemundo, we played on Cozy, we're on Peacock. So that's been great. I'm not ready to announce anything about a 3rd season, but nonetheless, that's been a fantastic relationship with us. And it was the beginning of people starting to see in both the B2C, but the B2B community was like, oh, wait, they're not just a tour.
That's right.
There's other things they're looking to do here. And that has opened up, from signing with Spalding as a new official ball partner, signing with IMG, right? IMG is a gigantic, UFC, WWE, and a whole bunch of brands living under them. Signing with them as our official licensing consumer products partner, right? Because they see the promise and the ability of us. And the 100th anniversary is one of the things that everyone's really attracted to.
So that's going to be massive
right now to jump on board with and grow this thing. Another thing you alluded to, which I think is important, is just sports. As the conversation we were having earlier, as the media entertainment industry feels a little upside down, it always goes through its cycles. Some are consolidating, the ownership groups are buying, the people are being laid off, cord cutting, all this stuff. But what's the one thing that people still are gathering around? What's the one thing that even brought us out of COVID, college football, right? It's sports.
That's right.
Right? And so the Globetrotters now are on people's lists, right, of things that the big distributors are going, let's have a conversation about the Globetrotters. It might be a big check you can write to us, but it's not the check that was just written for NBA rights or NFL rights, right? So that's an attractive thing. And again, all these platforms are looking for co-viewing and things that will reach all the demographics, things that have a global footprint, things that will resonate with people of different languages and different demos and different things. And so we're well positioned, I believe, in the now and the next coming years to really break through again.
Can you see a streaming deal with a smaller, or I don't know if it's an Amazon or an Apple, can you foresee that? You know, I mean, I know it's a themed attraction in a way, but can you see something?
Absolutely, and we're talking to all those players now, and I think the reason why I can see it, not just because of the conversation, is because of the diversity of the product that we can offer, right? So we can offer not just the live show and the live product, all types of shoulder programming, right? Like Harlem Globetrotters Play It Forward, which is all the great work the Globetrotters are doing away from the court. We have franchises about our rookies, right? We have a development slate of some 30, 40 projects out there that run the gamut of long form, short form, animated series, feature films against every demo, and that's where both our past and our present there, right? Not every sporting organization has the rich, deep history they have that we can dig into that part of the archives and tell great stories, or we can live in the present right now. So again, I think we're well positioned to live with these platforms.
Nice. Take me back, man. I mean, you grew up in Richmond, New Jersey, right?
Ridgewood,
New Jersey, right? Northern, near New York, northern New Jersey. What was that like?
Was it like growing up in Ridgewood? On many aspects of it, it's fantastic because it's the town I grew up in, and it's the town I live in now, right? Yeah. So my mom graduated from Ridgewood High School. My older sisters did. I did. Both my boys did, right? So it's a dynamic town. Folks are aspirational there. A lot of them work in the financial services industry. They got big dreams. They set big bars. They drive big outcomes. At the same time, it is not a visibly diverse town at all, right? So it's like, whatever my graduating class was, 450 something kids, I'm probably one of 6 to 7 black kids who graduate in that class, right? Yeah. And that's true of, all those grades. Sometimes for people, there's a sadness in that, and I'm just like, listen, you kind of know what you know, and I think there's so many things that armed me with that I would see a lot of people who look like me struggle with when they got to corporate America. And I'm like, I worked through those struggles, I think, in 5th and 6th and 7th grade. Yeah. And so that armed me differently, right, when I got to here. But overall, it's kind of like one of those Leave It to Beaver Orwellian towns that I was pretty privileged to grow up in. Yeah.
Now, I know you played basketball. Did you have NBA dreams, or was it, what did you want to be?
So it's funny, I was a football player first. Aside from boxing, but that's the sport I loved and loved. I tell people this story not too often, but it's like after my sophomore year, I was running back outside linebacker. I thought I was good, and I'm playing. My mom, I used to argue all the time about playing football, and I don't know if it was the way people think of it now. She was worried about you getting concussion. No one was talking about that then. But anyway, going to junior year, she had it. And I was like, anyway, I'm playing football. She's like, no, you're not. And I'm like, what? And she's like, no, you're not. And old school parents is like, you wasn't giving them all this extra lip. Sarah just looked at you and you do that. So. I said so, and that conversation was over. So that's where, I was like, I need to do something. So that's when I transitioned to basketball. Yeah. And but unbeknownst to her, I don't think she was really caring about it. I was like, that was the first time that I really learned to work at a different level, because it was like, football's tossed me the rock and I'm just going to do whatever, and wasn't thinking about something being taken away from me. And she took something away from me. And when I said, okay, well, now I'm going to be playing basketball, I was like, I had all these guys who've been playing for years, and I was not. I worked like crazy. I'm like, I'm coming to take your spots. But gave me a different type of a work ethic, and also taught you something can be taken away from you like that.
Yeah, most definitely. And you know what? I love your story, man. We have a similar background, because you two went through a community college, right?
Yeah.
As well. You worked at CNBC.
Yep.
I worked at CNBC, right? And so you have that similar back, but you get out of college, right? Rampo College.
Yeah, Rampo College.
And with a bachelor's degree, and then from there you go into these executive programs in management. One at Harvard and then one at UCLA.
Yeah.
What did that teach you, and how did that prepare you? Because coming out of college, I'm assuming that corporate America was going to be the direction.
Yeah. So CNBC, there's a through line of things here. It was like CNBC to America's Talking, the Fox News Channel, over to Viacom. I'm going to get to the executive leadership stuff. And a couple through lines were, they were all startups, because it was early cable, and they were. I wasn't thinking about them that way when I'm 24 and 5 and 6, but that's what they were. So I guess somewhere along the way I was building this skill set and or appetite and aptitude for like, give me something brand new and I'll jump in, or give me something that needs to be fixed. I love either one of those assignments, right? Globetrotters is not about it needs to be fixed, but it's like the 100-year-old startup. It's like, ooh, you want to take this to another, right?
That's what Forbes is, a 100-year-old startup.
Right, so that feels great. The executive leadership programs along the way, was the light bulb was going off. It's like, oh, someone is looking at me, maybe not even the way I'm looking at myself yet. They're going, Keith, you have the ability to maybe keep going. I was like, wait, I do? So it was an investment by, both of them are at Viacom now, Paramount, but it was an investment in their leaders there.
Yeah. So Viacom has sent you to those programs. Wow.
And again, these things you're thankful for. It's like, show up, do the work, show some grit, show some hello, please, and thank you, and show some ambition. And then these companies look at who are people who we think, this is their language, not mine, like our rising stars here. And yeah, they were investing in their leaders there. And listen, that's a powerful thing. It makes you want to work really hard for companies who do that for organizations, which is why I'm a big proponent on all types of leadership development work and how we invest in our employees and maternity and paternity leaves and all of these things, because it's an investment on your employee base. And at the end of the day, for all this talk we're doing right now, it's about people and process who bring all this stuff to life. Right? We can have all the ideas in the world. It's about people and process. And on the people side, how do we invest in our leaders to have them get to the places that they want to get to, whether it's for your organization or somewhere else. So I'm thankful for that work.
Well, Stan, in your time in Viacom, right, you spent a majority of your career running Nickelodeon, right?
Yep.
Teen Nick, Nick Jr., Nickelodeon Sports.
Yep.
What's the biggest thing you learned while overseeing those entities within Nickelodeon?
A couple things in no particular order. It's what resonates with me about this job I have at the Globetrotters. It's like people now are like, you work for the Harlem Globetrotters, and the way they light up. That's the way people were when I was at Nickelodeon. It's like, wait, you work for Nickelodeon? 8-year-old kid is about to lose their mind and light up. The parent of those kids feels so appreciative because you're doing some stuff against them. Some of those parents grew up on Nickelodeon themselves.
Yeah, so this Afraid of the Dark, Pete and Pete, my brother and me.
There you
man.
Go, right? So this idea that you are charged with something that is so important and special to people, that's consumer facing that way, that has value and meaning in their lives. And it's like, wait a minute, I got to think about, this isn't just a job. I'm a conduit for something, right? I'm a caretaker of this thing. So that was a big part of my Nickelodeon learnings. One, about brand. Two, and I say this a lot, I go, brands die when they aren't being nurtured and or don't recognize the environment that they're living in. And MTV was, for a long time, the most powerful brand, or one of the most powerful brands in the media entertainment space. Is it now? I'm not trying to, right? So that's a learning, right? What do you miss? Or do you get too arrogant? Or do you get too complacent? Or what are we fearful of as the media entertainment landscape changes around us? What do you feel like you need to protect that doesn't allow you to lean into where you should be going? And then people and process, right? Over the time I grew from being producer guy to a suit, right? So how do you lead people? How do you inspire people? How do you set vision? How do you set strategy? How do you set the processes along the way to bring those things to life, right? So all those things I learned. There was a great training ground and a great growth space, and also a great environment for me just to live in, as I was also young guy married, young guy with first kid, young guy with second kid, not so young guy with older kids, right? And a lot of that happened there.
Yeah. Biggest piece of advice that you've learned about how to navigate your career? Because you come people sit in your seats, CEOs, athletes, but I love that individual like yourself who's navigated so many different chapters. And like I said, you came from community college, CNBC, cable industry, all of that.
Right.
What's the biggest piece of advice, career advice that you received that you would tell a young person now?
Well, there's probably 30 different people that are exploding in my mind right now. So I'm just going to crystallize it, not into like their specific words, but, part of it is about just dreaming really big, because you can. It's your dreams, right? You can have big goals and big aspirations that are even bigger than like your background environment where you came from. There was no one in my house who was doing this or sitting here talking to you or doing this type of thing.
Me neither.
Right? But when I go back to my grandmother and think about where she came from, I was like, well, the only thing that really got her there was her big dreams, right? So you can set big dreams for yourself. You're gonna need to have grit. I tell people a lot, like I'm a big Muhammad Ali fan. I was in a meeting once, and I had my screensavers up on the screen, and the guy walks in, late to the meeting by the way, who we're presenting to. He's like, who doesn't like Muhammad Ali here? And I go, that's my screensaver. He's like, well, why would you have this picture? So it was a picture of Ali being knocked down by Joe Frazier. He's on the ground. And I go, because the reason why I like that is because if you hear Arthur McCandy, the ref, talk about it, he goes, Joe hit Ali with this thunderous hook. He goes, it sent Joe to the neutral corner. And when I look back, he looked back to start the count down, and Ali was up. And I go, so what I love about that is, welcome to planet Earth, you are gonna get knocked down. Can you get up?
Wow.
And so I think that permeates this kind of media entertainment thing. Is like, you need to have some grit and some stamina. You're gonna be tested, right? It's more your will than it is your skill some ways, right? But if you keep just kind of grinding that out,
Yeah.
right? You'll get here.
And that grit, man, I'm telling you. You know, you have your own media empire yourself, right? So on the one hand, you have the Harlem Globetrotters, right? You're running that entity and working at Herschend, and then you have Rock Hill Media Ventures, right? And this is a media company. Any update on where that is? What are you guys doing? What's Keith Dawkins up to on the CEO front running Rock Hill?
No, well, listen, what I'll say about that is this. I think the most important thing was back to the grit piece is I had left the PGA Tour World Golf Foundation. I was running a philanthropic organization there. It's called the First Tee. Wonderful organization. Wildly missed my media entertainment space, right? Need to kind of get back to my roots. Wasn't sure what that was going to look like. Started Rock Hill Media Ventures, Rock Hills, because my grandmother was born in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Media, because I'm a media entertainment executive. And Ventures, because, listen, this thing could be a broad-based idea to do a lot of things. And, you know, we had clients from NBPA to Rashad Jennings, from an NFL player, to a whole assortment of folks. So it was both validating to be able to work with a broad-based variety of clients from all over the media entertainment space, largely in the kid and family space, as I spent so much time there. But no, while that's still alive, I am like 100% locked in on all things Globetrotters and Herschend Entertainment Studios.
I was gonna say, because you got a 100-year anniversary coming up, man. Like, you got to pay attention to it.
That's where I am.
Do you delegate that particular responsibility running Rock Hill, or are you no longer involved with it?
It's still alive.
It's still alive.
Yeah.
Okay. So still alive. Put on the side for now. We got other business to take care of. I understand.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, man. We spoke at Columbia not too long ago, and you talked to that network executive, right? That's looking at the media landscape. What does Keith Dawkins see? Because, you know, I like this term that someone always says, they call it the great rebundling, right?
Yeah.
Where you have now traditional cable networks, they're not as lucrative as they once were. Streaming platforms on your phone, and, you know, the carriers obviously have way more power. You have worked at Nickelodeon, Fox Sports, CNBC, like, you know this landscape. What do you tell that media executive, that young media executive, about what's to come and how to navigate it?
Yeah, it's like what's old is what's new again, right?
Yeah.
I was having this conversation with my sister-in-law, 'cause she was talking.
I love that terms, what's old is what's new again.
Yeah, she was talking about streamers and this.
Yeah.
So when I tell the 25-year-olds, like, first of all, don't even get caught up in this. Just like I was ignorant, as dumb as a stump when I was 25, you get in to wherever you get into and start learning, start asking questions, you network, you work hard, you blah, blah, and you will grow as this whole landscape and stuff navigates with you. Having said that, I do find it interesting, right? The things that were the streamers that a handful of years ago, they were like, everyone's gonna cut the cord, no one wants commercials, everyone wants to binge and stuff on demand, the list goes on. It's like, okay, well, Apple now has sports, and Amazon has sports, and they run commercials, and they have live TV, and blah, blah, blah. So they are the modern day cable without the name of cable, and we're calling them streamers, right?
Yeah.
And listen, at the end of the day, this even goes back to Globetrotters, to your point about price. It's a cluttered market space. Competition is everything. Everything is in the ecosystem of your competition. A family of four is making $58,000 trying to make a choice around, do I get the new, my kids want these Jordans, they want the new Xbox, our phone plan is getting high, we're trying to figure out vacation, and now this world of infinity on content consumption. How many services can you have?
Yeah.
How many things can you pay for? Your phone company is doing a bundle on you to get you into this for blah, blah, and after 3 months, do I cut it or not? The cable operator is doing the same thing. And the bill just keeps getting more and more expensive.
Yeah. Are you predicting we're gonna go back to cable, Keith?
It'll be called something else.
But something different.
But I do think the consumer is a savvy consumer now, and they look up, they're like, wait, isn't that the same Batman movie that's on 8 services, so I'm paying for it 8 times?
I see it now, man. That's why I tell you, it's the great rebundling. T-Mobile pays me to use Netflix for free.
Right.
But how long, again?
But how long?
Yeah.
And then I think those services on the other side, and they're already going through it, is they can't keep writing checks, right? Where it's like, oh, I'm going to pay the most highest price point for X producer, right? And X talent that goes with it, and X staff that goes with it, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, how are you making the math work?
Yeah.
You're either raising the price in your subscription per month, or you're putting more people in the mix, but now you have more competition in the mix. Folks said they didn't want ads, now you're rolling ads with it. It's like, yikes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't have to care about that anymore. All I have to care about is they have to love the Harlem Globetrotters, and I want all these platforms to be out there. I want to call them all up, and they can strike us a deal to be on all these services.
Yeah, most definitely, man. I mean, listen, I don't have any problem with cable coming back as long as they bring back the jukebox channel and order the video. I'm cool with that, man. Hey, listen, man, some last minute stuff here as we look ahead and close out, man. And I always love this question, your first million. How did you make it? I know how other guys made it, but how did you make it, right? And how did you spend it?
Wow, that's crazy. It was straight work. It was nothing, oh, this investment in this, crypto, that. It was just putting those feet in front of the other and doing. And the biggest expense, man, has been, aside from my house, probably has been everything that goes with investing into my kids, right? From formula to lacrosse to sports to college.
Yeah.
So I felt like but listen, that's the greatest investment. If you told me, like, I'd be sitting here talking to you and having these two boys that I love to death and money's been flying out the door for them.
Yeah. See, I keep a little tab on how much my daughter charges me, because when she gets older and she becomes a celebrity or something,
Gotta let them
I say,
know.
you owe me $1.7 million.
Yeah. It'll be more than that, by the way. It's gonna be way more than 1.7.
Of course, right, but I got to give her a little discount because that's my first child. But the second one's gonna get a discount. ForbesBLK, man, we have a great community here, and we had a couple of people we invited to come and watch this interview. One of these questions is coming from Colleen. All right, how are you leveraging new technologies or platforms to keep the Globetrotters brand relevant to younger generations? I'm assuming that's the social media.
Yeah, to Colleen, shout out, and not as much as we should. This is the startup part of the Globetrotters. Like, a question like that for Colleen seems so basic and so fundamental, right? Which it is, as a best practice, has been non-existent within the organization. So this is where I go back to my fear of how old Colleen is. I'm like, oh my God, we're missing out on Colleen, her peer group, her little sister, her little cousin, her blah, 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 and generations before, just because for the last 20 or 30 years, her question wasn't even raised as a question within the organization. So that's the self-imposed, listen, I love the question, and the question makes me sweat, because it's like, that's the self-imposed pressure we feel to get after that. At the same time,
She's here. You can hire her for like
We're gonna hire her.
She'll go for your social media account, right?
That's what's up.
Yes,
We need Colleen.
Yeah, go hire Colleen.
Right.
Listen, just give me the percentage, finder's fee. That's all I want. We got another second question coming in, man. With the surge of interest in women's sports, do you foresee tours for women emerging on the Harlem Globetrotters brand?
Oh, listen, so the minute I started, and why was this important to me? A few things in no particular order. One, I'm a mama's boy and two older sisters and sports and Ridgewood. Fortunate that in that town growing up, all my friends, when I'm in 5th and 6th grade, boys and girls, we were all playing sports. So that was my ecosystem. Two, Nickelodeon for all those years that was #1 in its demo is because part of its competition set was over-indexing with girls 6 to 11. Part of its competition would over-index with boys 6 to 11. And Nickelodeon got everyone under the tent. So for me, that's the business case of diversity. It's like, oh, well, if you want to be #1 in the ratings, get everyone under the tent. Right. So if you extrapolate that back to Harlem Globetrotters, how are you going to have an arena filled with 13,000 people in Madison Square Garden, all cross-section humanities there, and not having women playing? How are you going to live right now in 2024 where it's like women's sports is on fire, and not having women? So that was like one of my first things when I came in. I was proud to say, in year 1, we had more women on the team than between Globetrotters and Generals we've ever had in the organization's history in 9. We signed Alexis Morris last year, who was on Globetrotters. She was on LSU's national championship team. Second round pick in the WNBA draft. She was leading scorer on that team, and that was a big thing for us, because I want the marketplace to know, not just for women and for men, it's like, oh, well, wait a minute. You could be having WNBA and NBA aspirations, but if that, for whatever reasons are, why do you have to go think about Europe? Why do you have to go think about playing Mexico, Australia, New Zealand, all those pro leagues, right? Globetrotters should be on your list of one of the things that you're thinking about, right? And it wasn't on the list. Now I'd like to think it is on the list because, like the signing of an Alexis, she's got a network. Yeah. Right?
So you envision more women on the team and maybe not separate tour?
I envision, it starts with those top tier athletes believing that the Globetrotters is a place for them. Right. And once we get to that place where, oh my gosh, we have so many people who want to come play Globetrotters, just speak to the women, now that pressurizes us to go, now do we want to have an all-women's Globetrotter team, which I actually love the idea of that, and an all-women's general team, and or do we want to mix it? What do we start to do as residency, right? It's all women's. What do we want to do as a women's only tournament? I mean, there's endless ideas that we could do with this, right? All because there are 144 slots in the WNBA, and there's way more awesome athletes than there are those slots. Exactly. So that means the possibilities are wide open for us. I just want to be one of those seats at the table, creating those opportunities for those awesome women athletes.
Yep. Hey, man, thank you so much, Keith. We get you out of here on this. Good to Great, Jim Collins' book. Love that book. And I asked you, what is the difference between a good themed attraction business and a great one?
I think this goes back to my statement about Nickelodeon. It is what I love about Herschend, the parent company. Herschend cares about people. So, you know, other places can talk about average ticket price all day long and per caps all day long and, you know, whatever. But we talk a lot about, my boss, we talk a lot about the guest experience, the customer experience, the people that work for us, blah, blah, blah. We're actually measured on that, right? Don't get me wrong, we're measured on EBITDA, but as a component of that is, a massive one is, how are those guests feeling when they show up at that? Are they a detractor from this whole thing, or are they an evangelist and want to tell people? So I think the difference between good and great around, you know, people need to have this irrational love with your brands. They need to show up, and the guest experience was so magical. They are just screaming from the rooftops about their Globetrotter experience, and that's a great experience. And then you'll see the revenue come after that. Yeah. If you think about it, I just believe in this. If you think about it the other way around, you can do a lot of things to make the math work, but if people aren't having just an awesome, awesome time with their experience, they're not coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you have that, it's like you don't care how much money you paid. The experience is what takes it over.
You hear people talk about what's the greatest concert you've ever been to, Prince or whatever it is. How much did you pay for the concert? They never remember.
Yeah, you know, it's just a memory experience.
Right.
Yeah. Well, man, listen, I know there was the last one, but I forgot to ask you one of the most important questions that I've always wanted. I just keep forgetting, but not this time. What was your all-time favorite Nickelodeon show, right? I mean, you ran Nickelodeon for all those years. What was your all-time favorite Nickelodeon? It has to be My Brother and Me. Come on, man.
It's actually Avatar.
Avatar?
Yes.
I don't even know what that is.
Oh, see, because you're not paying attention.
Wait, not Rugrats, not Avatar?
No, not Rugrats, Doug, Ren and Stimpy, Invader Zim in a different way. I have love for Keenan and Kel and all that stuff, but Avatar, Aang, Korra, just magical show.
It ain't beat My Brother and Me. I don't care what you say, man. It's not. Okay, that was the best Nickelodeon show. Keith Dawkins, man, I appreciate it so much. Looking forward to the residency at the American Dream, man. A fascinating place. Definitely look forward to having you back again once the Harlem Globetrotters turn 100 in 2026.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you for watching.